Hello, and welcome to this, a read through of our new four-part series in which we delve into different aspects of social and sustainability issuances, examining the corporate issuers behind the debt, social projects they support, and the population they aim to uplift, along with future trends in the social and sustainable bond market. I'm Niceasia Mc Perry, the author of the series, and I sit in the Climate and ESG Capital Markets team here at NatWest. The research in this series was conducted by analyzing 26 social and sustainable bond reports and frameworks for European and US corporates. We looked at the allocations of proceeds from social bonds or proceeds going to social initiatives from sustainable bonds. A point to note, only social and sustainable bonds as reported in social and sustainability bond reports are taken into consideration. Other sources discussed during this series are linked in the description of the recording, so please do check these out if interested. Now let's begin. Article 1. Corporate social and sustainable bonds. Who's behind them and what do they achieve? Corporates can be critical drivers of social change and impact, and so can capital markets. And since 2018, we've seen a steady supply of corporate social and sustainability debt. Section title: Slower adoption of social bonds among corporates. Financial institutions and sovereign entities have traditionally been at the forefront of this financial realm, while corporates have tended to tread more cautiously. A primary reason for this is the complexity involved in identifying and managing social initiatives that align with the diverse operations of corporations across various sectors. Financial institutions often have a more streamlined focus on specific social and sustainability goals, while corporations tend to carefully select projects that align with their core business operations, often resulting in a more measured approach. Furthermore, corporates issuing these types of bonds usually aim to make an impact externally, for example, supporting specific communities rather than internally, i.e., diversity of organizations. Section title: Real estate and healthcare issuers constitute half of the market. Looking at issuers' industries, the majority belong to the real estate sector, with 27% of supply, and particularly non-profit entities such as housing associations. Together with healthcare issuers, they constitute half of the market. A potential reason behind this lack of sector diversity is a challenge for corporates to identify a sufficiently large pool of eligible assets for a benchmark-sized social bond, or even to define a sufficiently large category to be able to move from a green to sustainable use of proceeds format. Investors hope for a change in this regard, pointing to the fact that apart from real estate and healthcare issuers, corporates in the energy and utility, as well as telecommunication sectors, are equally well positioned to issue social bonds due to their inherent social mission, which often involves providing essential services like energy access and digital inclusion. Section title: American corporates at the forefront. Nearly half of the social and sustainable bond issuers in a sample size originate from the United States. This does not come as a surprise, and given the significant political and social movements in the country in the past 3 years, such as, for example, the Black Lives Matter movement. This has shaped the country's social cultural landscape, and as a result, spurred U.S. corporates to engage with social initiatives that can help address those pressing societal concerns. Article 2. What social projects are companies financing? In this installment, we turn our attention to the what by delving into 26 social and sustainability bond reports from European and US corporates from 2018 to 2022 to uncover the diverse range of social initiatives the social proceeds have financed. We see this as a critical research area to help corporates understand the breadth and impact of these initiatives, gain insight into viable projects, and in doing so, hope to make the process of issuing social bonds more accessible and less daunting. Section title: A focused approach. Over 75% of the issuers in our sample opted for a targeted approach, directing their proceeds to one specific social bond project category. Issuers can have multiple initiatives within one social bond project category, rather than spreading the funding across multiple social bond project categories, as per ICMA social bond principles. The targeted approach during this period, over 95% of the social bond or sustainable bond reports we studied were published after 2020, could be attributed to global events at the time, mainly the COVID-19 pandemic, which resulted in a very specific set of social challenges. Section title: Social project priorities align with hierarchy of needs. A good way of thinking of social impact is through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Looking at the project categories in the report, it becomes evident that the social projects can be aligned closely with this hierarchy. For instance, affordable housing initiatives addressing the pressing need for shelter represent the base of the hierarchy. Moving up the pyramid, investments in healthcare, ranging from COVID-19 solutions to the development of accessible primary care and community health centers, fulfill the need for safety and well-being. We've included a summary of the most quoted project categories from our sample. A. Affordable housing. Corporates in our sample allocated 32% of their social and sustainable bond proceeds towards affordable housing initiatives. The funds were primarily used for lending to housing associations, which serve as providers of affordable housing, or utilized for the development and provision of affordable housing units. This focus highlights both the significant rise in rental prices and housing shortages in many markets, as well as the sizable, identifiable capex associated with this project category. B. Access to essential services, healthcare. In total, corporates allocated 20% of proceeds to healthcare. While a portion contributed to COVID-19 solutions, a significant portion of the funds were also going towards developing publicly accessible primary care and community health care centers or facilities. These investments underscore the importance of enhancing healthcare infrastructure and expanding access to essential services beyond the immediate pandemic response. C. Access to essential services, community service property. 18% of the proceeds allocated in this category have been utilized to finance and refinance community service properties that play a vital role in providing access to essential services and delivering distinct social benefits. These properties encompass a range of assets such as hospitals, elderly care homes, primary schools, secondary schools, and university. By financing and refinancing these properties, corporate issuers align with the broader objective of improving access to essential services, such as healthcare and education, which are fundamental pillars of a thriving and inclusive society. D. Socioeconomic advancement and empowerment. 16% of the proceeds in our sample have been allocated to social initiatives aimed at addressing socioeconomic disparities and empowering marginalized communities. This could involve providing financial support, training, and resources to individuals, all communities to start businesses, create jobs, and stimulate local economies. For instance, the Ford Foundation has committed $420 million over 5 years to tackle gender inequality exacerbated by COVID-19, as well as support racial justice and civil rights organizations, addressing systematic inequities and promoting inclusive democracy. This focus on socioeconomic advancement and empowerment signifies a proactive approach by corporate issuers to drive positive change and create a more equitable and inclusive society. However, some investors have expressed concerns that often revolve around the perception that these endeavors might lean more towards charitable projects than activities directly core to corporate functions. Article 3. Which populations do social and sustainable corporate bonds target? In this installment, we take a closer look at the beneficiaries of social initiatives discussed in Article 2. Social bonds often target specific underprivileged populations. The ICMA social bond principles encourage issuers to provide a clear rationale for selecting these target populations, demonstrating an understanding of the unique challenges and vulnerabilities faced by these groups. This could explain why the selected population is considered underserved or vulnerable, or providing the income threshold used to define the target group. By providing this context, issuers can enhance the transparency and effectiveness of their social initiatives funded by their social bonds proceeds. Several reasons underscore the importance of having a well-defined target population for a social bond. Firstly, a defined target population allows for measuring impact by establishing clear goals and metrics. This enables tracking progress, demonstrating social impact, and ensuring accountability to investors. Secondly, defining a target population enhances accountability and transparency in the use of funds. Clear identification ensures transparency in resource allocation and distribution. Thirdly, while there is no strict regulatory framework like the EU taxonomy for green bonds, the ICMA social bond principles encourage issuers to provide a clear rationale for selecting target populations. The evolving market is consequently likely to see further development of regulations, including its definition of target populations. Section title: A wide variety of stakeholders are benefiting from social initiatives of corporates. As highlighted in our previous article, while over 75% of issuers in our sample opted for a targeted approach, directing their proceeds to one specific social bond project category, a sample does indicate that a wide variety of stakeholders have been on the receiving end of these social projects. On average, corporates in our sample have referenced 1 to 2 target populations in their social and sustainability bond reports or frameworks. However, it's not so much about the number of target populations on the receiving end, but about their eligibility to benefit from social initiatives. Some corporate issuers in a sample have arguably less well-defined target populations, such as vulnerable customers or vulnerable youths, and so providing clarity on exact thresholds would help avoid social washing accusations in this context. Section title: Marginalized communities. Marginalized communities often face systemic barriers to accessing capital and financial services, which can hinder the economic development and opportunities for wealth creation. Efforts of organizations such as the MacArthur Foundation and Eli Lilly help to address these issues. The MacArthur Foundation's commitment to directing proceeds towards social entrepreneurs contributing to racial equality suggests a recognition of systemic barriers by these marginalized communities, while Eli Lilly's focus on supplier diversity indicates a proactive approach to promoting economic opportunities for women and minority-owned businesses. Section title: Disabled and Reduced Mobility. Disabled individuals and those with reduced mobility often face significant challenges in accessing resources and opportunities, making them a natural focus of corporate social initiatives. Key issuers targeting this segment often stem from the real estate sector. For instance, Asura seeks to improve healthcare buildings to provide easy access to healthcare for disabled people, elderly, and those suffering from conditions such as dementia and autism. However, there are also issuers in other sectors, such as leasing or transportation and education, demonstrating a broader industry interest in addressing the needs of this demographic. Section title: Low to Medium Income. Likewise, for the low to medium income target populations, both the real estate sector and unexpected entities in the tech sector are actively targeting low to medium income populations. The focus is on providing affordable housing solutions for individuals within these income brackets. This suggests a broadening trend where companies, regardless of their traditional industry, are recognizing and addressing the housing needs of individuals with lower to moderate incomes. Section title: Corporates as Financial Service Providers. In certain cases, with the proceeds of corporate social bonds, companies can extend their role beyond traditional business operations and assume a role as financial service providers. For instance, corporate social bonds can provide target populations with access to funding for projects that can address asperities, such as small business development, for instance. Case in point, Alphabet's sustainability bond directed 148 million US dollars of proceeds to provide financing to small and medium-sized businesses focus on the Black community. Article 4. Looking ahead, what trends do we expect in the corporate social and sustainable bond market? In this, the final installment of the series, we offer insights into the anticipated trends that will shape the corporate social and sustainable bond market, including evolving social priorities and investor preferences. Over the last 3 years, issuances and volumes of social bonds have experienced a substantial surge in response to the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. This also holds true for the corporate social and sustainable bond market. A point to note, while not all corporate issuance in those categories related to the pandemic, the market has increased in issuance and volume since 2020. So what lies in store for the corporate social and sustainable bond market? We expect three key trends to unfold in the years to come. The first is rising investor interest in corporate debt with a social angle. While supply of corporate social bonds has been limited compared to corporate green bonds, a recent survey conducted by Goldman Sachs Asset Management indicated that nearly 65% of investors have a keen interest in allocating funds to social bonds. Of this group, 29% said that they have already made investments, while 36% have expressed a desire to explore investment opportunities in this category. While the lack of available supply in social bonds could be a reason for the limited number of social bond funds we are seeing in the market, several large investors, including Columbia Threadneedle, Amundi, and AXA, are setting up funds. Nordea Asset Management, for instance, launched a dedicated global social bond fund that specifically invests in labeled social bonds and debts issued by corporates. Corporates interested in tapping into this demand do not necessarily need to issue pure play social bonds. Sustainable bonds, green bonds with clear social co-benefits, and even some intrinsically socially impactful corporate issuances can be appealing. Given, however, the less well-developed nature of this type of investing versus green-focused strategies, more investor engagement prior to issuance is recommended. Now, moving on to the second trend. Social-focused regulation from the EU could be beneficial for corporate issuance. While ESG financial regulation is sometimes seen as a barrier, it can also be a positive catalyst towards driving confidence in the asset class. As such, regulatory focus, particularly in Europe, on social metrics and reporting can be conducive towards further social labeled supply, particularly as it moves from a minimal safeguards approach towards clear output metrics. Corporates that start reporting on these frameworks may find that it supports reporting around social impacts as well as identification of new socially impactful projects. In the future, we anticipate measures to address social washing, mirroring the proposed EU ban on greenwashing. While the EU social taxonomy has currently been put on hold by the EU, investors and stakeholders in Germany and France are forging ahead with the development of social taxonomies, reviving efforts initially abandoned by the EU. But for now, the increasing significance of the European directives related to reporting, such as the CSRD, and due diligence, CS3D, will play a greater role in enhancing the consideration of social issuances in the future, as companies will be required to report on social issues, such as, for example, their own workforce and workers in their value chain. And finally, moving on to trend 3. There is more potential for social KPI-linked bond, particularly in private markets. For firms with insufficient social spend, for a social or sustainable label, sustainability-linked or KPI-linked may be another route. This is likely more apparent for the loan and private placement market, noting the typical longer tenor for bonds. Most social targets are shorter term, as well as limitations in the euro sustainability-linked market, given that European Central Bank excludes non-green sustainability-linked bonds from its programs. Sustainability-linked debt can equally address social issues and drive meaningful social improvement, and can be used by companies that cannot gather sufficient eligible social assets, but are still aiming to improve their social performance. Sustainability-linked debt also offers room for corporate issuers to diversify and grow. As mentioned, targets that have been successfully included in sustainability-linked debt include gender diversity and or number of jobs supported, to name a few. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this audio series. I hope you enjoyed the content. Any questions on the content covered in the series, you can reach out to me at niceasia.mcperry@notwestmarkets.com. Or for more insight, you can check out our dedicated webpage, notwest.com/corporate/insights, or follow us on LinkedIn via the link in the description. As a reminder, all sources referenced in this series can be accessed in the description, so do be sure to check those out. Thanks again, and I hope you have a great day wherever you are listening from.